Naomi Klein, I want to ask if you can comment on all of this and particularly lay out your piece in The Intercept called Screen New Deal. Under cover of mass death, Andrew Cuomo calls in the billionaires to build a high-tech dystopia. Lay out your thesis.
Sure. Well, the billionaires I was referring to is he didn't just announce that partnership with Eric Schmidt, who will be chairing this blue ribbon commission to quote unquote reopen New York State with an emphasis on telehealth, remote learning, working from home, increased broadband. That's what they announced during that briefing. He also announced that he would be kind of outsourcing the tracing of the virus to Michael Bloomberg, another mega billionaire. And the day before, at the briefing, Cuomo announced a partnership with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to, quote unquote, reimagine education. And during all of these announcements, there's just been sort of effusive praise heaped on these billionaires. They're called visionaries over and over again. And the governor talks about how this is an unprecedented opportunity to put their pre-existing ideas into action. And this is what I've described as the shock doctrine previously. And we have talked on the show during the pandemic about what I would describe as kind of lower tech shock doctrines of the kind we've seen before, immediately going after Social Security, immediately bailing out fossil fuel companies. And I want to stress that all of this is still happening, right? The suspending of EPA regulations. So there's still this kind of lower tech shock doctrine underway with the bailout of these industries, the suspending of regulations they didn't want anyway. But there is something else going on that Eric Schmidt really epitomizes, and this is what I'm calling a Screen New Deal. And this is an idea that treats our months in isolation, those of us who are privileged enough to be self-isolating. And that in and of itself is an enormous privilege, because we have seen this sharpening and widening of a class dichotomy. And this relates to the calls to open up the economy, right? The people who are making these calls are not the people who are going to be most at risk. They're calling for other people to be putting themselves at great risk. And there's a feeling of being immune to the worst impacts of the virus. But that's another issue. What I'm calling a Screen New Deal really does is treat this period of isolation not as what we have needed to do in order to save lives. This is what we thought we were doing, right? Flattening the curve. But rather, and Eric Schmidt has said this elsewhere, he said it in April in a video call with the Economic Club of New York. He described what was happening now as a grand experiment in remote learning. So all the parents out there who are listening or watching, you've been struggling with supporting your kids on Google Classroom and Zoom calls, and you thought you were just trying to get through the day. Well, according to Google, you've been engaged in a grand experiment in remote learning where they are getting a great deal of data and figuring out how to do this permanently, because they actually believe this is a better way of educating kids, or at least, and coming back to our earlier conversation, a more profitable way. Eric Schmidt talked in that clip that you just played there, Amy, about all of the opportunities for public-private partnerships. And what he is really talking about is public money going to tech firms like Google, like Amazon, to perform public functions. So once again, a bonanza for the tech companies, who, by the way, have been doing very well during the pandemic already, where they see huge opportunities in telehealth, in the educational market in public schools, in supporting us working from home and learning from home, and they're not looking for a kind of a traditional reopening, but rather a new paradigm where the privileged classes who are able to isolate themselves basically get everything that we need, either delivered through digital streaming or by drone, by driverless vehicle. And we're seeing a massive rebranding effort going on in Silicon Valley, where all of these technologies that were very, very controversial and where there was a lot of pushback way back in February, whether it's driverless vehicles, because there have been all kinds of accidents, or drones delivering packages, or telehealth because of concerns about security for patient-sensitive information, or the benefits of having our kids in front of screens all day. I mean, I could go on and on.